Good morrow everyone, Silvershire here, and this video was originally going to be a tier list where I rank every single Street Fighter character based on whether or not I think they should return in Street Fighter 6. But I quickly realized that I just don't have strong feelings about most of the roster. Eagle is... I mean, what do I say about Eagle? He's a guy with some sticks, I guess he could be cool. So instead, I figured I would focus on the characters I do have strong feelings about and run down my DLC wishlist, as well as a few honorable mentions. While personal bias obviously played a role in my selections, this isn't just a list of my 10 favorite fighters. I tried to think about who would offer something unique to the roster of Street Fighter 6, mainly in terms of gameplay, but also aesthetics, personality, and story. Also, while guests are allowed, I limited myself to games that are already a part of the Street Fighter extended universe. So Final Fight and Rival Schools characters are fair game, but we're not gonna have Dante or Rathalos showing up. Unless. So without any further ado, let's get into this. Number 10. Cigar. To be honest, I've never really cared for Cigar. I don't have anything against him, unlike certain Muay Thai characters, but he's always been kinda boring to me. He's just a big guy with an eye patch who mostly plays like a Shoto. However, he's a series mainstay with a lot of fans, and Muay Thai is an important fighting style to represent, so even if he's not my favorite, I think he's earned his spot on the roster. Naturally, this got me wondering how they could potentially spice Cigar up a bit, and one idea I had was to somehow incorporate his pet tiger into his moveset, much like Kazumi from Tekken 7. Maybe she could be a ranged command grab, like a bigger, slower version of JP's Embrace. Or maybe she could be more of a combo extender, keeping the opponent in hit stun while Sagat charges up his more powerful moves. Speaking of charging up, let's turn his V skills from the last game into ordinary specials. As well as giving him more options in battle, it would parallel Ryu's Genshin Impact or whatever it's called, showing that these old school rivals have grown in similar ways. Number 9. Cody. Seeing as how Metro City plays such a big part in Street Fighter 6, it's strange that there are no Final Fight representatives on the base roster or the first season of DLC. Of the three original heroes, Cody seems like the best choice, both because he's the mayor and because we already have a pro wrestler and a Bushin Ryu ninja, so Hagar and Guy would feel a bit redundant. Granted, Cody would be this game's fourth blonde American dude, but it's not my fault Capcom has so many of those. Gameplay-wise, I'd like Cody to really lean into fighting dirty, so that's the main thing that sets him apart from the rest of the roster. Maybe he could have a new special move where he kicks up a cloud of dust, similar to the start of his Ultra combo from Street Fighter 4. While we're at it, let's replace his whirlwind attacks with something a little more down to earth, because we already have plenty of wind-themed fighters. Number 8. Sodom. I know Hugo, Mika, and Laura are more popular grapplers, but I want to shine the spotlight on someone who hasn't yet appeared in a 3D game, unless you count Final Fight Revenge. The idea of a modern-day American gangster who's obsessed with ancient Japanese culture is an intriguing concept, and he manages to be wacky without crossing over the line into annoying, which isn't something I can say for most of Street Fighter's joke characters. In the Alpha series, Sodom's weapons could change depending on which ism was selected, so I thought it'd be neat if he was reworked into a stance character who could switch between them on the fly. By default, he would use his classic Jite or the Sai from his Street Fighter V concept art and play mostly like his old self, but then he could switch to his katanas to sacrifice speed for range. And while we're on the topic of his concept art, please just give him some cool samurai armor. I get that he's not an actual samurai, but that doesn't mean he has to wear this weird padded football jersey. Number 7. Fey Long. Bruce Lee homages are a staple of the fighting game genre, and to be honest, Fey Long isn't the most interesting among them. His personality basically starts and stops at martial arts, and he doesn't put any sort of unique twist on the Bruce Lee archetype, like being a chef or a monk or a pirate/Elvis impersonator. But Street Fighter 6 is the perfect opportunity to change that. World Tour has injected characters like Ryu and Honda with more personality than ever before, and I'd like to see Fey Long get the same treatment. Something as simple as giving him a hobby would go a long way towards differentiating him from his fellow Jeet-Kune bros. Since Bruce Lee movies are from the 70s, maybe he could have an affinity for other aspects of 70s culture like disco. It'd also be neat if some of his more generic attacks were replaced with direct Bruce Lee references, like how Zangief is now filled to the brim with wrestling moves. Maybe he could even use a pair of nunchucks for one of his supers. But more important than any of that, I hope they give him that all-white suit from DJ's Bond artwork. It looks so slick. Number 6. Elena. Capoeira is a unique and beautiful fighting style that would probably look amazing in the RE engine, so combined with the community's desperate thirst for some Street Fighter 3 content, and desperate thirst of a different kind, Elena seems like a no-brainer. She spent the past few games traveling the world to study, sightsee, and make new friends, so now that some time has passed, it'd be interesting to see her settled into a role as a princess back home in Kenya. Maybe she could have a royal redesign with lots of fur and fancy jewelry. As for her gameplay, she already has a wide array of specials and a unique gimmick in the form of healing, so she would fit right into Street Fighter 6. All they need to do is make her, not ridiculously overpowered. If it turns out recovering health is too difficult to balance, maybe she could recover drive gauge instead. Number 5. Gill. Gill was the main antagonist of Street Fighter 3, and as revealed in the last game, he still has some big plans for the future, so I'll be surprised if we don't see him return in Street Fighter 6. Mechanically speaking, Street Fighter 5 did an excellent job of updating him, emphasizing his theme of duality by forcing him to alternate between fire and ice attacks to maximize his damage. However, I think his visuals could use some work. He just doesn't look enough like a god. I wouldn't want to have the flashing effect from 3, because it's kind of headache-inducing, but it'd be nice if he had some clearly supernatural traits like glowing eyes, or better yet, glowing marks all over his body as if he's performing some kind of summoning ritual. That would be awesome. His story this time around could possibly tie into the Valhalla arena, since it's half red and half blue like him. Number 4. A replacement for Nikali. Nikali was arguably the biggest disappointment of Street Fighter V, which is really saying something, because that entire game was just a bunch of disappointments stacked up in a trench coat. I mean, the idea behind him is so cool. An ancient Aztec warrior who devours the souls of his opponents? How do you mess that up? I'll tell you how, by making him an absolute jobber with no personality who gets punched so hard he melts into a puddle of goo. Capcom could rework Nikali into something more exciting, but he left such a sour taste in people's mouths that it'd probably be better to replace him outright. According to his character guide, he's constantly surrounded by a noxious gas that pollutes the souls of whatever it comes into contact. Once that happens, the infected people become like Nikali and seek the souls of other strong fighters. Grammatical errors aside, that's an easy origin story right there. We'd be here all day if I started talking about potential character designs, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking some kind of snake-themed warrior woman. Her gameplay wouldn't need to be that different from Nikali's, but she should probably have some sort of new gimmick. Maybe a rage mechanic where she gets stronger when she's low on health. Number 3. Vega. I'm hesitant to include too many Street Fighter 2 characters, because they already make up a majority of the roster, but there's a reason for that. Nostalgia sells, and if you want people to buy a season pass, you throw in a Street Fighter 2 character. The main reason I want Vega to return, other than just thinking he's cool, is that I'm curious how his mask and claws would work in this game. Street Fighter 6 is going all in on weird character-specific mechanics like Jamie's definitely non-alcoholic drink, so I think they could do something really interesting with Vega. For example, maybe when his mask is off he could take more damage but recover drive gauge more quickly. That would introduce some tense risk and reward, especially if he was in Burnout. Plus, Vega's a matador, and there's a mode in this game where you need to avoid charging bulls. That's a match made in heaven. Number 2. Zaki. Since Akira was so well received in Street Fighter V, it'd be smart to introduce another rival school's character. The obvious choices would be Batsu or Daigo or maybe Kyosuke, but I don't find any of them very exciting. You know what I do find exciting? A delinquent gang leader with a chain whip. Since they come from the same series, Zaki would probably share Akira's affinity for air combos, but rather than being a rushdown character, she would focus on neutral, using her whip to stay just outside the opponent's range. Despite her antisocial demeanor, Zaki is one of Akira's closest friends, so it'd be easy enough to work her into the story established in 5. Also, since Street Fighter 6 canonically takes place several years after Street Fighter 5, which itself seems to take place after Project Justice, the story could explore what the rival school's kids have been getting up to in their adult lives. Before I tell you about the character I most want to return in Street Fighter 6, let's go over some honorable mentions in no particular order. Sakura, Balrog, and Dudley were all considered, but since we already have a boxer and plenty of Shotos, I wanted to prioritize other fighting styles. 12, or more accurately, a successor to 12 called 13, was actually on the list for a while, but I got rid of him because I realized that his moves really wouldn't work in World Tour. Some other characters who I think would be cool but just didn't make the cut are Crimson Viper, Q, Rose, and Seth. That finally brings us to number 1. Menat. If you ask me, Menat is easily the best of the Street Fighter V newcomers, and I can't believe that Prototype Luke made it in before her. She has one of the most unique playstyles in the series, able to puppet her orb around the stage to set up traps for the opponent. With Street Fighter 6 giving characters more options than ever, I can only ponder how mind-bending her moveset might be. Her V-skills from the last game could be turned into a level 2 install super, and her level 1 could take yet another page out of Viola's book and draw the opponent in towards her orb. Gameplay aside, her homeland of Egypt would make for an awesome stage, as well as an awesome location to explore in World Tour. Out of all the characters we discussed today, Menat is the only one whose exclusion would truly disappoint me. And with that, I'm gonna leave this video here. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, I bid thee farewell. The upcoming releases of Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8, I've been thinking a lot about fighting game rosters. Specifically, I've been thinking about the times veterans were replaced by new characters with similar styles. Almost gonna kill him! There we go! First perfect KO, that's what I'm talking about! Oh, no, Luke. Luke, don't do that.